Joining us now from Philadelphia, Ignat Solzhenitsyn, a pianist and conductor who was born in Russia. Ignat was 4 when his father, the Russian dissident writer Alexander Solzhenitsyn, was exiled with his family. Ignat spent much of his childhood right here in the U.S. and now returns to visit family in Russia at least 3 times a year. And Ignat, when you go over, are you performing from time to time when you go back to Russia?
Absolutely. It's one of the great pleasures of the recent years for me has been to be able to go back to Russia as to my homeland, but also to perform there as an artist.
There was a time when the status of the arts and artists in Russia was absolutely huge. Poets could fill up a stadium with an audience that would follow their poetry. Are those days gone?
I'm not entirely sure, John, that they are gone. Clearly, the reverence for the arts is not exactly the same today in Russia as it was in the communist years, but we also have to remember that at that time, this reverential approach to art was in large part as a part of people's ability to say no to the government, to say no to the regime, to participate in, at least covertly, in something that had moral value.
In a way, the Soviets definitely worked to co-opt artists, and I assume that would mean subsidizing them as well.
That's true. Of course, like everything else in the Soviet Union, art was state-owned, so to speak, and all the theaters and all the work of the artist was always subsidized.
And further on the power of artists, your father is an example of somebody who represents how frightening artists could be if they didn't toe the line.
Absolutely. In his Nobel speech, my father used the old Russian proverb, "One word of truth will outweigh the whole world." And that's exactly what the Soviet power, the Soviet authorities were afraid of, and in the end, it did topple them.
You saw the report about the Bolshoi. What happened to the Bolshoi? And really, my question to you is: was it commercial reality? Is what happened?
I think that's part of it. Many, virtually without exception, all Russian institutions, whether in art or in other fields, have found it very difficult, as you know, to make the transition from a managed, centrally planned, ideologically controlled economy and environment to today's not yet, but moving towards free market and a free society. The Bolshoi Theater is no exception.
Our producer, Jay Weiss, broadened his report about the symbols of Russia. He talked about the Kursk, a symbol of the military power. He looked at the television tower fire. Are we oversimplifying the impact that the hit to these symbols has on the Russian psyche?
Well, I'm not sure that it's possible to equate the effect of the most important of the tragedies that you mentioned was the sinking of the Kursk submarine.
I don't mean to trivialize it, but there's a sense that there's one thing after another. That in the old days it represented strength, power, certainty, and confidence, and now that it doesn't.
Well, it's true. It's difficult to look at the 3 major accidents, if you will, that took place in August, and not to see some kind of a pattern. There clearly is, not to say that it was coordinated, but just to say that it's not coincidental that as Russia is going through such a difficult time of transition, and in many ways a crisis, that we see in one field after another events of this magnitude occurring.
To wrap this up, I just want to bring it back to the Bolshoi very briefly. If the worst happened, which probably won't, and the lights went off permanently at the Bolshoi, would it matter in the end?
Yes, that would matter. And God forbid that should happen, and I don't think we have any reason to fear such an extremity.
But why would it matter? Why would it matter?
It would matter because, of course, the Bolshoi, as we heard in these segments, is more than just a theater. It is an expression, a symbol of Russian pride. It is a symbol of Russian excellence. And that's particularly in these days, again, when Russia is not excellent in so many areas. It's important that there be symbols that Russians can be proud of in a very natural way. So let's hope for the best for the Bolshoi.
Let's hope for the best. Ignat Solzhenitsyn, thank you very, very much.
Thank you,
I'll
John.
be back in just a moment.